Of tennis, it is now officially after the tennis. Well, that's how Channel 7 describes it. We're going to look into that. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour. Back once again, I'm Sergio Paradise. And, of course, a bloke who is now coming up to his 54th Grand Slam. It's Titus O'Reilly.
Oh, it's a good night of tennis.
It was a cracking night of tennis. It was a big weekend. It's been a big 2 weeks of tennis. But it's certainly climaxed, if you like, last night.
It certainly did. Although it freaked me out a little, you using that word freaked me out.
Yeah, quite a few viewers too as well. I'm tipping.
Now, one thing that happened last night was the Jungle Show started.
It did. I watched it. Did you watch the start of it?
Of course not.
Oh, I did.
I've never seen the Jungle Show.
Well, I made a point of, because I know
despite us talking about it every podcast.
You're vehemently opposed to it in principle, but we still talk about it at the podcast.
No, it's one of those things where I don't want to devote any of my time to it in terms of actually watching it, but the stuff that comes out of it is hilarious.
Oh, well, I watched it last night, and it started off, they brought out the first 5 contestants, and I think the last couple of years they've all jetted in one at a time in these flashy-looking choppers. But I think that was a bit overblown because they'd come in a chopper and you think, wow, and then they'd open the door and you go, oh, Andrew Daddo. Yeah, you're kidding, aren't you? So last night they just wandered down one at a time, the first 5, including Tom Arnold, who looked like he had no idea what he was doing or why he was there. And, of course, he had no idea.
They just told him there was free booze.
Yeah, who any of the other people were there. There was Ash Pollard, who just assumed that everyone knew who she was because she'd been on My Kitchen Rules.
Oh, I don't know her.
Even the other Australian celebrities didn't know who she was.
I don't know who she is at all. What's she done?
She's been on My Kitchen Rules and Dancing with the Stars.
That's not a
so
thing.
She's done 2 crappy Channel 7 reality shows.
Now doing a crappy
Channel 10. Next thing she'll be on Married at First Sight. With
That's
Channel
not
9.
really a life.
No, it's not. Does it qualify?
I'm not saying we have a life
as a celebrity,
but I recognise it when someone doesn't have a.
Oh, and then who else did they have in that first? They had Nazim Hussain,
a comedian,
and Swanee, Dane Swan.
Well, the Dane Swan's interesting because I'm going to be interviewing him on the 8th of April.
Yeah, well, I hope he's back by then.
Well, that's someone said to me last night, I'm just going to ask him questions about the Jungle Show.
Oh, you may as well.
That'd be interesting. Now, Liam Johnson wrote in about this. He wrote to me straight as he saw that Dane Swan was on there. He said, do you think that Dane Swan's benders at Tramp Jungle has equipped him well for everything that this jungle will entail? Now, Tramp Jungle...
What is Tramp Jungle?
It's at Tramp Bar. It's the recovery session that starts at 6 in the morning on Sunday mornings. I think it's Sunday morning.
She's haven't been to one of them for a while.
A recovery session?
No. Oh, I haven't stayed up until 6 a.m. for a while. But they got it...
Drinking at 6 a.m. is fine, but I usually go to bed first.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that worse to get up at 6 and you've been asleep and start drinking, or to go all the way through and just keep drinking at 6?
See, going all the way through and continuing on is a tradition that everyone has been through. When you're at uni, everybody's done that. But I reckon there's something a bit strange. If you've been to bed, you set your alarm for 5:30 and go to a nightclub at 6 a.m.
No, I more meant if you just wake up at 6 and straight away reach for the whiskey bottle. Is that perhaps
that's
you've got
not
a problem?
unusual. That's
asking for a friend.
that can be done.
So anyway, that'll be that'll be interesting. They'll give me some material. So tickets are selling pretty quickly to that one on 8th of April. So I'll put the link as always. Now, it was Australia Day as well.
Yes, it was.
Last Thursday, which we didn't have a podcast that day because of that. And did you do anything nice on Australia Day?
Oh, pretty much just sat around and had a few beers. A couple of people came over. And we always make a point of playing all Australian music on Australia Day.
Yeah, right.
And I did discover, though, that when you're about 6 albums into an AC/DC marathon, they do get a tad repetitive. There
is other Australian music, technically.
Well, there is, and I did play a fair bit of it during the day. No, I wouldn't be playing Jet.
I was just about to say, it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah, it does. Jet's the poor man's Airborne, who are the poor man's AC/DC.
That's right. That's the actual hierarchy. Well, I did nothing for Australia Day. I have a few problems with Australia Day.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, and there's the one that gets everyone on social media fired up around the fact whether it should be Australia or Invasion Day.
Oh, yeah.
And that gets a lot of... And I always think, isn't Twitter the best place to settle this? People always accept other people's point of view on Twitter.
Of course, it's so balanced.
It's so balanced.
But Twitter, as we know, is the forum to solve all problems, not just arguments over Australia/Invasion Day.
See, my issue with Australia Day, it's a few before you even get to the Invasion Day part of it, is one, the fact that there's an Australia Day and the date is not commemorating. Don't worry about what it commemorates at the moment, but before we even get to that, it doesn't commemorate a sporting triumph.
Correct.
Huge problem.
Yes.
Un-Australian right there. And secondly, do we need a day of pride? I mean, patriotism is an American thing. The whole thing about being a patriotic Australian is not being patriotic and not really giving us stuff. It's being so half-assed about it. This new thing where we all people get G'd up and care about the flag.
I agree with you.
It's got another country's flag on it. Like, being Australian is mumbling the national anthem, being slightly embarrassed about people who get too over. It's a quiet patriotism. Like, we're all proud to be Aussies. Like, well, no one's doubting that. No, you don't agree with you. The point is, you don't have to do it. The Yanks have to do it all the time because their country's so rubbish.
Yeah, so you're right. I know what you're saying. A genuine Australia Day, would be a day that nobody really does anything about, and just Australians barely acknowledge it and go, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
But it is getting a bit overblown in that regard.
I just have no interest. And then you get to the fact that it does deeply upset the Indigenous population, which a lot of people that seem to be... what I don't get is, this day where... and it wasn't when Captain Cook found Australia, as people all say.
That was the best one I saw. I saw a picture of some peanut white bloke holding up a sign saying, Invasion Day, January 26th, Captain Cook.
Yeah.
He was dead 9 years before.
That's right. What it's celebrating is when a bunch of when the first convicts showed up, the first fleet showed up, and they colonised the place because obviously it was empty except for the oldest continuous culture in history. But apart from that, completely empty. So that's what it's commemorating. Now the thing about these, why do we care in this day and age about one? No one celebrated this until 1988 when it became the bicentenary was a thing. So one, it's not something going back to ancient times. It annoys the Indigenous population a lot. And this is the thing, a lot of people say, well, it's not about that. Yeah. Well, but we would all be pretty annoyed if we were Indigenous. We would be, you put the foot on we would all be pretty annoyed that that's what it was. So the thing for me is, we don't really care. It's about a bunch of English people that showed up, most of them under duress, and a lot of them that were free people got to go home when they wanted to. So why are we celebrating that as a great moment in our history?
Well,
we've got David Boone's birthday.
Exactly. So
to wrap it all up.
On the other hand, there is something quaintly Australian about celebrating the fact that a shipload of bread stealers arrived.
That's our high
who've
point.
Been whipped all the way from Suffolk.
Yeah. It wasn't a great day for anyone, really.
No.
Who enjoyed... the military that came out, they got sent here on orders. The convicts were against their will, and it was a bad day for the Indigenous.
And as soon as they got off the boat, there wasn't a room available in Sydney.
That's right.
Overpriced.
And the property prices were a mess. The cost of living, even then.
As soon as they walked on shore, this would be a nice place for a village.
Yeah. So the whole day is just weird.
A real estate agent came out straight away.
Yeah, there was a real estate agents here before even the Indigenous community. They were property developers. That's basically the Sydney I know. Yeah. Anyway, I don't get on my high horse about it. I just can't see the logic in the day. To me, it makes... David Boone's birthday is sitting right there.
It is.
It's ready to be commemorated.
And look, the only... You're right. It's only since the bicentenary thing in 88 that people have got excited about it. But it's become... It's just a public holiday. So Australians will celebrate any public holiday.
I love a public holiday, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. And the fact that it was on a Thursday, and which meant that half of the country took a sickie on Friday, See, that means Friday should have been the Australia Day because that was such an Australian thing to do.
I'd like to use Australia Day to maybe link it to another one to create a mega public holiday. You know, that's an idea.
Yeah.
The other thing is people in Melbourne went nuts when they got given an extra public holiday, which was the grand final
On the Friday
and everyone
before the grand
complained
final.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
We've got the Melbourne Cup.
God, we know how to whinge. Luke Gilbert wrote in, how big of an injustice is Bob Murphy not winning Australian of the Year?
Look,
Pretty big.
It is, Luke, but I must, at the risk of alienating most people,
Something you've always worried about.
I'm starting to get a bit over the canonisation of Bob Murphy.
Oh,
Saint
stop
Bob.
it.
Saint
Stop
Bob.
it.
And I reckon if you asked Bob, he'd be a bit over it too.
Well, you'd have to pray to him, ask him.
Yeah, I can't get an audience.
When he ascended on a beam of light, that's when I became a true believer.
It's impossible to get an audience with Bob Murphy at the best of times, let alone now that he's, reached that level. But yeah, it could have been Australian.
When he's named a saint, that could be the Australian Day.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing about the Australian of the Year this year was a scientist whose research led to a paraplegic walking again.
Yeah.
What a disgrace. There are sportsmen across this country that, I didn't see this scientist, scoring a ton before lunch at the SCG.
Did this bloke who walked, did he score a ton
That's
before
right, or a
lunch?
try, or
Has he done anything
best
since?
on ground and grand final? Nothing.
He's hobbled around the room a few times. That's the best he can do.
Bob Murphy can do that by the laying on of hands. You don't even need this research. I mean, science is overrated is what we're learning.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, it's good that the Australian of the Year went to somebody who'd actually achieved something rather than just being a figurehead, which it has been in the past. So that was
normally
good.
it should always be a sports person.
It should. Well,
they're the only Australians that really achieve anything
if we dig
care
deep
about.
down, the bloke who did win it does have a magnificent moustache.
Got a great moustache.
So that he must have played a bit of cricket in his early days. So he probably qualifies.
It wasn't a magnificent moustache.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
great.
It curled up at the ends.
Well, it went
was
so
grey.
beyond his face, it was a full sort of mustache that goes right out the side that you would have had to have turned side on to go through a doorway.
Yeah,
which I respect immensely.
and a bit of wax.
A lot of wax on the end.
Just to point the bits at the end.
He looked like
that's what he should have got.
I kind of expected him to do the speech accepting the award and then get onto a penny farthing and ride off into the distance. That's what that mustache looked like. Rhombus Isotope wrote in. Now Rhombus writes in about 30 questions every time, and often there's a lot that are good. He asked whether you have a Taylor Swift tattoo this week.
I do, Rhombus, and if you look at it upside down, it looks like Ho Chi Minh, actually.
Which is a weird combination. I've never noticed the likeness before. Ho Chi Minh and Taylor Swift.
I'll show you later.
Yeah, they have a lot of similar beliefs. Now, Rhombus wrote in, did you do your traditional Australia Day activity of taking over a neighbour's house? Just rocking up.
Yeah.
No one seems to be here.
Yeah. And he's right, though. On Australia Day, you can virtually knock on a neighbour's door as long as you're carrying half a dozen stubbies in one hand.
Well, I'd let anyone in if they're carrying alcohol.
Yeah,
that's true. It's not hard to get into my house. Now, Australian Open finished up last night. We talked about that. How good was the tennis last night?
It was, I've got to say.
Even if you, it actually made me enjoy tennis.
Yeah.
And I've got to admit, I used to love tennis when I was a younger man, and then I've steadily over the last decade
gone off it.
Just found it boring more often than not. And I know that's like there's all people say. But then last night really, my faith was restored.
Reinvigorated
It wasn't just it just shows if you have any sport played at the
highest level
between the two people who are
worth watching. Yeah.
We found that with the Quidditch World Cup.
Yes.
We find that here with the tennis.
We'll find out the Australian cheerleading team at the next Olympics.
At the next Olympics, yeah. It was great, wasn't it?
It was fabulous. I mean, I watched the Williams sisters on Saturday night.
Yeah,
that was
over. It was so one-sided.
Yeah, well, you always knew Serena was going to win that match.
Serena is so ruthless.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I kind of love Serena Williams because she is. All she cares about is winning. You've
got to admire her for that. I mean,
it shows you what you almost need. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you think about it. Michael Jordan was known to not be the greatest guy to hang out with when he on the team because he was so ruthless about winning, even with his own teammates. Don Bradman was known by many to be distant or actually
not,
quite
not
disliked.
one of the best blokes ever.
And Serena's had a few, I think is a nicer person overall, but has had a few run-ins with, officialdom and various things.
Other players.
To be that great, you almost... Which is where Federer's kind of very interesting because he doesn't seem to be that. He seems a more...
Yeah, but Federer and Nadal, we'll get to that in a minute, but just still on the Williams sisters.
Yeah.
Did you didn't watch that game?
No,
Saturday
I did.
Night? Oh, you did?
It was over pretty quick.
There was a massive flaying on Twitter against Basil Zampoulis. And I must admit, I was front and square as far as bagging Basil.
I think I'm the only person in Australia that doesn't mind Basil. I just don't. Everyone has an issue.
He's bland and inoffensive, but I think he was well out of his depth at the tennis the other night, especially when you hear he talked about Serena winning the 23rd.
Yeah, I heard that.
And he pointed out that 23 is such an
iconic number.
An iconic number in American sport because that was the number worn by the great basketballer Michael Jackson. I was waiting for him to tell us that Michael Jordan actually owned a chimp called Bubbles, just to round that out.
Well, Shane Warne famously wore number 23
purely because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So but last night, I mean, you talk about the ruthlessness and will to win of Serena. Federer and Nadal have got that in spades.
Yeah.
But they're just not as overt and annoying about it. I mean, and you look at, it's such an obvious comparison. But if you put Tomic and Kyrgios compared to Nadal and Federer, other than the fact that they're both, a step above them as far as tennis ability, the complete difference in their attitude and the way they play, but still maintaining that ruthless will to win.
The difference between, the thing that Federer and Nadal both have that separates them from pretty much every other tennis player, except for maybe, some of the all-time greats, but of current tennis players, and especially Kyrgios and stuff, where you see the Kyrgios and that are the opposite. They're the polar opposite of the spectrum, which is, with both of them, and Nadal kept doing this last night, but so did Federer, is something bad happens to them, like a massive point goes against them, or they lose, they go on a run of losing, they're broken and then they struggle on serve or something. They just have this ability to switch back to being on again. They don't chuck. They don't have a tantrum. They don't have a meltdown.
Screaming at their players' box.
They focus and they know to hang in there and they know they can turn around. Their mental toughness of not going to water and even rebounding. Like there's a few times when Nadal looked, and Federer too, but Nadal especially, I remember in that last set where he looked gone, and then just acted like on the next point like the previous one hasn't happened. It's that thing they say if you want to be a good tennis player, and they say it about certain other sports too. Like you have to forget the previous game. You just have to forget it happened. You just have to treat each game like it's a new game and just reset. And that's what they do so well.
And great individual sportsmen do that. I mean, golfers are like that. Your top golfers. Like Tiger Woods when he was at his peak, he would very rarely say smash one out of bounds, but if he did, you just almost expected that his next shot was going to land 2 feet from the pin. He didn't. He's not like normal people like us. We hit the ball sideways and then top the next one 30 metres. That's right. And I mean, it's a mental thing. And you're right, Federer and Nadal have got it in spades. They can switch it on, go back to it, and as you say, no tantrums, no screaming at the player's box, abusing the umpire, no racket smashing. Yonex would be happy because there was not that I think I would amuse Yonex, but none got smashed last night.
Now, we mentioned Kyrgios, but interestingly, combining two of our favourite people, Shane Warne's come out to offer to help Kyrgios. How much have you got
a marriage made in heaven?
How much have you and I got our fingers crossed that this happens? Because this is our material for the year just done.
Yeah.
We basically can phone it in from here.
And the great thing is, Warney's not even a tennis player. Can you imagine Warney in the box? He'd be playing poker on his phone. He'd have a durry going, and he'd be coaching Kyrgios.
It showed Kyrgios a bunch of They have a lot of tricks about partying and various things. And he said, this is what Shane Warne said. He said, Nick, grow up. You've got an unbelievable talent. Be the best tennis player you can. Be silly, have fun, but just don't be stupid. And then my favourite bit is he said, that might be the pot calling the kettle black because I've done some stupid things. But here's the thing. I'm nearly 48 years of age and I've learnt from my mistakes. Has Warney learned from his mistakes?
Well, that's arguable.
I've had to say.
I mean, I'd just like to see Warney lecturing Nick on the theory of evolution, perhaps.
The aliens are coming.
Aliens have come.
Gee, a stint in the jungle might help Kyrgios immensely to make him appreciate tennis. Hanging out with Dane Swan for a while. Dane Swan.
Tom Arnold.
Now, interesting story that kind of came out and then just dropped like a stone because I imagine there's a lot of...
I think this was pushed sideways or covered up almost.
Well, I think there was a lot of, there's probably lawyers at 10 paces, but it had the Australian reported it in the AFR. The Fin Review actually broke this story, I believe. Fairfax did. But Tennis Australia is under investigation by the corporate watchdog, which is ASIC, Australian Security Investments Commission, over allegations that their $200 million deal to sell the broadcast rights to Seven West Media, who are Channel 7.
Channel 7, basically.
Effectively may have broken the law. ASICs are saying that the selling the 2015-2019 broadcast rights to longtime partner Seven in 2013 could have broken the law because they didn't have a competitive bidding process, which basically means their shareholders got dudded.
Yeah, because in these big sporting media rights, the law states that it has to be made available to in the free to air because they're these the what do they call them, anti-siphoning rules. These big events like this, like the AFL Grand Final, etc., they have to be made open to competitive bids from all the networks.
Is that part of the?
I think that's part of the deal.
Because I thought it was also just
some don't bother, but it's like with the Big Bash, like Channel 10, they're flying there. But the next set of rights, 9 and 7, apart from the fact that they'll want to probably have a crack because it's so successful, is I think they have, by law, the chance to throw in a bid.
See, I would also think, and this is why maybe ASIC are involved, if you're a public company and have shareholders, there are things where you need to do to kind of in the best interest of your shareholders. And if you're just not even putting up, and they estimating in this article that cost Tennis Australia up to $50 million. They could have got more if they had some tension in the system and actually drove the bids up.
Yeah.
And that the current and past directors of Tennis Australia have been served with notices to produce documents and answer questions about the negotiations and the board's decision-making process. Now, and what I love about these stories, Tennis Australia didn't respond to a request for comment. No. Seven's commercial director, Bruce McWilliam, denied an ASIC investigation was underway and said the media group had not been asked to participate. Now, what's interesting about this is an ASIC spokesman said the agency does not confirm or deny the existence of investigations. How much money would you give me? What would be the odds that ASIC leaked this story?
Oh,
it's 100%.
$1 and Fermi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
there's never been a surer thing.
They don't confirm or deny
the story we just leaked
Tennis
to
Australia.
The media.
And let's be honest, their board have been fighting amongst themselves for a year anyway. They're in a bit of turmoil.
Yeah, and there was some accusations around this, which was that Harold Mitchell, who was on the media buyer and who was on the board of Channel 7, also does on the board of Tennis Australia, also has a lot of business with Channel 7. So there was sort of, what were the... But these allegations...
If there's any man who knows what media rights are worth, it's Harold Mitchell.
But then Tennis Australia have come back in a few things I've read and said a lot of this is just based on misinformed information. The people don't actually understand what happened. And basically, if you think about it, if you can stick with Channel 7 who put on a good product, know the tennis, and the money is what you think you'd get anyway, and you don't have to put all that effort, you just roll that over. It's a bit like if someone comes to you and you're selling your car, and someone who you know comes and says, well, I'll give you this. And if it's around the market price and you don't have to advertise and waste all your time, you take it.
I quite understand if that's what's happened, But maybe they should have been a bit more
transparent,
a bit more opaque about the whole thing.
I just love that that's meant to not have come from ASIC. Pretend they're not commenting on it. When
they won't.
I will go heave. That's not actually come from them.
That won't confirm or deny something.
Well, who else is going to leak it? Seven aren't going to leak it.
No.
Tennis Australia aren't going to leak it. So,
it's narrow.
If the glove fits.
Yeah.
Now the BBL Final was on. Was it Saturday night?
Yeah,
Saturday night.
It was Saturday night.
It was.
And I ended up seeing most of the Scorchers innings because the Williams sisters final.
See, I watched the BBL. This is the benefit of having several TVs and an iPad. Yes. You can watch. I had everything going. So I had the tennis, but I was actually mainly watching the BBL. It became obvious within about 4 overs, which was Mitchell Johnson's opening stanza, that basically the Scorchers were going to win it.
Yeah.
The Sixers really didn't show up.
No, the Scorchers, I mean, they were missing half their side and they still keep winning, so you got to hand it to them. They were pretty impressive again the other night.
Oh, the Scorchers, Mitchell Johnson could be playing for Australia. Oh, I mean, it's a perfect example of someone who retired a bit early, has had a bit of a rest and now come back. And he's arguably the best back bowler we've got.
He would walk into the Australian T20 team easily.
Even the test
team. Probably
the
test team. You'd like to see Stark and Johnson again, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah. I'll get him back.
Yeah, Hazelwood first drop.
This is where there should be the Minister for Sport. If we
should override
well, should be able to,
all selectors.
Well, not just selectors, but even if Mitchell Johnson, like basically the equivalent of being able to conscript someone. So even if Mitchell Johnson says, I don't want to play anymore, it's a bad luck.
You're playing. Yeah,
like this is national interest.
I was about to say this is a matter of national security almost.
That's right. That's what it should be. Hector Wang wrote in, and he's a Scorchers fan. After the Scorchers' 3rd win in 6 years, is it time to take away our cost of living allowance and ban you from training too? I think
they've got a cola in Perth, have they?
Well, actually, the way that Perth house prices and general thing was it's tapered off a bit since the cost of iron ore's gone down a little bit, but still. Now, Nick C has written in, what excuse can I give my kids for not playing with them now that I'm watching the tennis or the BBL is no longer an option? Well, the women's AFL is about to kick off at the end of this week, so there you go. Yeah,
Jungle Show. I know the Jungle Show's on at night.
I don't think can you use the Jungle Show to get out of talking to your kids?
If you work hard enough at it, or the Jungle Show.
Can you not just say Daddy's drinking anymore? That's like my upbringing remembrance. Is that no longer a thing? This is the problem these days. Kids expect parents to engage with them.
Oh, I know. I mean, Nick, just do what we all do. Just buy them both an iPad, and you won't have to worry about them.
Yeah, that's right. Don't worry about their development or anything. Now, the BBL, very successful season.
Oh, I mean, it's what, 6th year it just been.
Yep, 6th year,
and it's continuing up the skyrocket.
Beat the tennis more often than not.
Yeah.
Almost always actually. It beat the tennis. It didn't see the last couple of days, but ratings, I haven't seen them yet.
No, I know the ratings for the tennis last night were massive.
Would have been huge last night.
Over 1 million in Melbourne, 3 million around the country.
I was glad it didn't go through to 1 in the morning or something. There was moments there where I thought, this is going to eat into my lion.
Or the Friday night one did, the Nadal semi-final.
That went late.
It almost went long enough for me to go to a 6 a.m. nightclub start.
Straight to recovery. Straight to, what is it, jungle?
Tramp jungle.
Tramp jungle. Sounds good, doesn't it? Tramp jungle.
Yeah.
How's that not a reality TV show? Just put the cameras in the room.
I was about to say, it brings 2 of your favourite things together all at
I
once.
imagine the police would quite like to have cameras in at Tramp jungle. Anyway, I hope we get a free invite to Tramp Jungle.
I don't even know where it is.
We won't go, but it's in King Street in Melbourne.
Oh, of course it is.
Notorious.
Oh, it's probably a rebadged
we would stick out like
I used to go to.
We would stick out like sore thumbs. People would think we were undercover cops.
It's not the old inflation, is it?
I don't know.
Or the underground.
No,
or the grain store. I'm just trotting out
Showing your age here.
the hippodrome. You'd always pop down Commercial Road and go to Checkpoint Charlie.
You get old quickly when you suddenly realise you see nightclubs you used to go to either closed or changed names.
Oh,
So, like, your currency is, within 10 years, it's just gone completely.
Or the worst thing is seeing an old nightclub that you used to go to, it's now a Starbucks. Or a McDonald's. You go, I had some good times in there. Bet you don't need a medallion to get into Starbucks.
Now, the BBL in next year, they've said, because of all this success they've been having, Cricket Australia have come out and said that they're going to increase the regular season to 40 matches, up from 32. So 8 more matches. Bring the total overall of 43 if you include the final and the semis, so 43 matches next year. And it means more than 100 BBL and women's BBL matches will be played next season. And they've also talked about, it gives every team an extra home game, and they've talked about playing games away from their traditional stadium, so maybe taking it to
out the country areas.
Things like that. Is this a great idea, or is this Cricket Australia again diluting a product to the point where we actually get sick of it just to make more money in the short term?
Oh, look, I think they can probably get away with it because they haven't doubled the numbers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know where they're going to put the extra matches. I mean, you put it's on every night anyway in summer.
Well, it's going to go an extra week or so each end, I think, basically. See, the thing I think they should be doing, I do think, and cricket has never managed this well, and no sporting body has really. The only thing that stops AFL and NRL doing it more is that the footballers will just die if it goes any longer.
I'll just jack up and not do it.
But the thing with cricket has not learned its lesson. One dayers were great, and then once cable TV came in and you got the overseas tours of both one dayers and people just lost interest so rapidly because cricket never ends now.
Yeah.
And then one days are on all the time, and then there's a tour in New Zealand, there's a tour, and you're just going, I just don't care. I can't keep up with it. So I kind of think this is once again I think this will only work if I think they need to just get rid of the one dayers.
I was just about to say, axe the one dayers, and that means.
But you know why they won't?
Why?
Because it's still the format of the World Cup. So unless everyone else in the world does it, we're not going to do it.
When Cricket Australia only do what the Indian Cricket Board tell them to anyway.
Well, that's true.
But if they did, in an ideal world, axe the one dayers, it could that would be such a boost to the BBL because then you could time or get your fixturing right. Yeah. So the Test players could actually play in the BBL. I mean, it'd be terrific to see
that's
Davey Warner and Steve Smith and these guys playing the BBL. They never get a chance because they're off.
If the BBL's happened straight after the it's like with the Indian Premier League because they pay so well.
Yeah,
no one wants to book anything when the IPL's on.
Yeah,
so suddenly all the stars of world cricket can play.
Yeah.
If the BBL happened when there wasn't any international cricket on, and it only goes for 2 months.
Oh, if that.
It's not even that. It goes from Christmas, so about a month.
It's probably 6 weeks at the most.
6 weeks. So, if you could just put everything else on hold and they all play that, the boost to cricket, because this is what's getting the kids to play. This is what's getting everyone involved. It rates, it makes the money. I also think they could do a lot to improve the final series. So, last night, Saturday's final had none of the, it's nothing like an NRL or AFL grand final. And I know it's early days and all that, but there's no, the other thing I think about BBL or 2020 as a sport is 2020 is less like Test cricket or even the one days. It's a lot more like baseball, where even the worst team can beat the best team on a one-off game. You actually need the final to be best of 3.
I was just about to say
baseball's best of 7 World Series.
And I was about to say the same thing, but from being like the NBA perspective. But the baseball's exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's a best of series. Yeah, you're right. Best of 7 would be overcooking it here.
Yeah,
but a best of 3, I reckon.
And the team that finishes high gets 2 of those games as a home game. So it would go. The team that finishes higher gets the first game at home. Then they play the next one at the
the
other teams,
yeah.
and then they come back to finish off. So if they haven't clinched it on in 2 games, and I just think because you think about it, that was such an the climax of Saturday night, it was over literally, and this is the nature of 2020. You lose like 3 or 4 early wickets.
Yeah,
it's over. The game's over. Like it's just pointless.
Yeah, the best of 3. I mean, the international bookmakers would ensure that it went to 3 games.
That's right.
There'd always be both. The 2 teams would win 1 each. But imagine the hype of the winner take all the third one.
Yeah, and then you don't have the dead rubber, so you don't, it's not going to be a boring one. It's like, if they win it in 2 games, it's done. It's over, and that's the way it is. And you could do it with the semis too, potentially. You make it a much more...
I'd rather see that than adding more standard home games, which is what they've done.
Well, it's all about being. They can sell.
They'll cook the golden goose.
More,
I reckon.
Yeah. I think you're right in that this isn't. This is probably as big as they can go. Beyond this, it would start to get a bit
silly,
ridiculous.
But you got to hand it to them. I'll tell you one thing that I went to another game this year, and I went to one last year.
Yeah.
The one thing that baffles me to this point about the BBL is how quickly, not kids I'm talking about, because kids love the product and they pick a team and so on. How quickly adults latched on to actually barracking for a team.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, every team's just made up of a handful of players and mercenaries and a couple of imports. And
right.
There's no history. No one really cares.
They were all dreamed up by a marketing team.
Yeah, exactly. So from year one, I was just absolutely flabbergasted that grown men be walking into and wearing a Stars polo shirt or a Renegades cap, and you think, mate, do you really care? Why? I get it that 12-year-olds do, but, having said that, that's part of the success. People have latched on to their own teams. And the home cities where Perth have only got the one team, you kind of get it. But, it's funny how quickly it's
Yeah, I must admit, I find it hard to really get to... See, sometimes people say to me, do you go for the Stars or the Renegades?
Yeah, so who cares?
And I'm like, well, I don't want to really go for the Renegades because I don't want to go to Etihad.
Yes.
I'm a Melbourne supporter, so Etihad's
it's members or nothing.
It's hell on earth for me.
Yeah.
But then on the same stage, do I want to go for Eddie Maguire and Shane Warne's team?
Well, that's right.
It's a hard...
Kevin Peterson,
It's a hard... So I'm kind of not... I haven't really picked one yet.
Yeah.
Because I don't... And then I don't really... Even if I did, it's like...
That's my whole point. Who cares?
Now, but it will change over time. Like, you need some controversies to happen.
Yeah,
you need some...
a bit of history and,
Yeah.
And the fact that players... Well, move around from club to club. That's just sport these days, I know.
But it seems that the BBL is even more mercenary than anything else you've seen.
Yeah, no question.
There's not a...
But hey, good luck to them. They've done it pretty well.
Now, talking about tinkering things, even when it's not broken, AFL rule changes.
Oh, of course. As soon as you said tinkering things that aren't broken, I knew it was going to be the AFL.
The AFL came out late last week, and some of these were rules they'd already announced, but they just clarified some of the interpretations and stuff. So we already knew about the banning the third man up in the ruck contest.
Third man up, yeah. And that's going to be interesting because there's been about, I reckon, a 50-50 response from people for and against amongst players and officials and coaches.
Yeah.
Which goes to tell you it's probably not a bad idea because half and half like it, half don't. Although the fact that it does favour genuine good tap ruckman is very good for Max Gawn, I think. So therefore,
you think
I think it's a great idea.
Whether someone has a ruckman or not.
Yeah, if you've got a good ruckman or you've got a Mark Blitzhouse.
What I care about is how much is that going to free up the game or is it going to make it more congested? There's an argument it's going to make it more congested.
Yeah.
But that's always like...
Yeah, but the AFL won't cop that. They'll just deny it.
I've been doing some work on stuff where I've been looking at a lot of old match reports and stuff and going right back to sort of almost right back to the beginning of AFL.
Right.
And AFL's been battling this congestion. It's like an illness it's never lost.
I think Mike Sheehan wrote a story about it in 1854.
Yeah, well, that's what there are literally stories where people will go, we're worried about the congestion of the game and we need to change it. Anyway, the other ones that I find interesting that they've covered is players who duck into tackles or drop to their knees will no longer automatically be awarded free kicks. Now, is this the Joel Selwood rule?
I think you'd pretty much.
Because I noticed a lot of the media.
Joel Selwood / Lindsay Thomas.
Well, none of the. But Lindsay Thomas, in fairness to Lindsay, who is a ducker and a diver, he's nothing compared to Joel Selwood. Joel Selwood is like, the stats just show it. This isn't, Geelong people have got into me before going, oh, not you tell me. But the statistics aren't even close.
But I have a begrudging admiration for Joel Selwood on this, in that he's played the rule to his advantage absolutely brilliantly.
Yeah, but you know my problem with it, my legitimate issue with it is that's one interpretation of it, right? That he's been very clever and he hasn't done anything illegal, right? Yeah. And that's absolutely true. But in a game where we're trying, the reason the rule was brought in and what we're trying to do for kids and all this sort of stuff is say, watch your head because concussion is a massive problem. And so one of the stars of the game going, you know what? I'm going to ignore that.
Drop my head so I caught one across the neck.
Because technically it's not illegal and I can get free kicks. You know, like, that's what's always rubbed me up the wrong way about that is that, you know, yes, you can. It's like in life, you can create laws against doing everything, but there are certain things where we haven't had laws because people just know that's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, just don't do it, yeah.
And the fact you have to bring in laws is actually saying, well, someone's just, you know, ignoring what the broader attempt of what we're trying to get. And the thing is, because all these players have ducked their head, the umps have been left to try and fix it through interpreting and got a lot of heat for giving away free kicks. And now they've been told, well, now you have to interpret it. And it's another difficult interpretation.
I was just about to say, it's all very well to say there'll be a stricter interpretation of it. That's easy for Peter Schwab to say when he's sitting there watching it on his monitor, freeze framing every split second of an incident. But it's going to make it a hell of a lot harder for the umpires.
Oh, yeah.
And again, it'll be did he duck into that free kick? And then there'll be the ones where he legitimately just about had his head taken off and he won't get the free kick because his knees have come out accidentally.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's right for, it just won't work properly.
Huge issues. NBL this week. The NBL have to do something usually pretty special for us. We actually talk about the NBL a fair bit, but it has to do something.
I love the NBL.
Yeah,
actually, I'm a basketball fan.
You are, but the New Zealand Breakers forward, Akil Mitchell, he suffered a horrific eye injury. Were you watching this?
I wasn't watching it live, but I saw it on Twitter.
On Thursday night.
Soon after, and I flicked it over, and of course they were showing it, constantly. It was a show.
He received a poke in his eye in the fourth quarter, and it resulted in his left eye fully coming out of its socket.
I know, and you could see it hanging out.
Because I saw it on social media. I didn't see the full video, but someone just took a picture of they'd paused it and put a picture on social media of it, and it was like, I was like, what's that?
It's his eyeball hanging out of his head.
Now, he got rushed in an ambulance to the hospital. All the players were very distressed.
Oh, you know what
and spectators.
They put a towel over his head and walked him straight off the court.
Yeah.
It's like nanny state kind of stuff.
In my day, we would have kept playing. He
did say, older kill, and the good news is he's come good, and they put the eye back in.
It seems to be not as bad as they originally thought. Yeah. But they've got to monitor some of see if there's
He's going to wear goggles for the rest of the season.
Right. I'd be wearing goggles for the rest of my life. In fact, I probably wouldn't be playing basketball ever again. I'd probably just stay home.
He's got those kind of Marty Feldman bulgy eyes a bit anyway.
You think that was the issue?
But older kill, he said, and you can imagine this, he said the pain wasn't as excruciating as you may have thought, but he said the worst bit was he couldn't blink.
Oh, right.
Could you imagine? You could feel that the eye was hanging out, and your natural instinct is to blink, but there's nothing to blink because your eye's hanging out. He said it was the most bizarre feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
No.
Now, Serge, we've got two of the greatest stories.
Yes.
Coming up now that have ever crossed our desk. These are right up there with I think they go into the Hall of Fame almost with both, to start with Horses on Ice, which we've been big fans of.
These next two is going to...
are right up there with that. And also the other one I always like is the T-shirt cannons, which we had enormous fun with. But first one is, and we mentioned this briefly before, but the full extents come out.
Last year we mentioned this, but as you say, the full extent has been, revealed.
So we all know that cycling, a wonderful sport.
Yeah.
Except everyone's doped off their heads
Everyone's
for a long
on the
time.
gear
on
and
the
has
gear.
been for decades.
It's also been found out, and this was reported briefly, but it's come out in a lot more detail, that a lot of the bikes have had motors in them. Secret motors. Now, a Hungarian...
I just love this.
A Hungarian designer who designed one of these motors said he thinks pro cyclists have used them to cheat since 1998. And US cycling legend Greg LeMond says he can't trust the Tour de France results anymore because of this. He thinks it's that deep into all the way back. Both were interviewed by the CBS television news show 60 Minutes, so that's the American 60 Minutes, where designer Istvan Vargas, a scientist and former cyclist, outlines mechanical cheating methods in a sport already rocked by the infamous doping scandals, especially Lance Armstrong. He designed a motor, this is the Hungarian designer, he designed a motor to fit inside a bike frame in 1998, and an anonymous buyer paid him $2 million for it.
I bet he was anonymous, that buyer.
Yeah. How often does someone anonymously give you $2 million? Now, in the deal... part of the $2 million deal, he agreed not to work on any more motors.
Right.
So this person would have exclusive access to this. And they're obviously silent and they fit into the underneath,
the genius
into
of
the
it.
crankshaft under the seat.
Yeah.
And they go down and then through the pedals. So it looks like a normal racing bike.
Yeah.
And it makes no noise, but it actually
it turns the gears and the pedals
what it does,
faster.
it gives them a boost. So basically, even though you're still having to pedal, it just gives you that extra little bit that means that it's doing a lot of the work for you. So I don't think it spins like you take your foot off it and it spins like crazy.
Spinning.
Yeah.
It's like that when you were young, you wanted that extra bit so you didn't have to stand up when you're going up a hill.
So basically, I think so he said it said that he wasn't allowed to, under this deal, to speak about them for 10 years or sell them to anyone else. Now he says he says he thinks the motor was used to cheat in cycling racing.
Yeah, well, just on that, the reason we brought it up last year, I think, was that there was one cyclist that he got pinned for it last year.
A few now,
and everyone's going, he's got a bike, he's got a motor inside the bike frame. This is outrageous. This is unbelievable. But what old Istvan's been saying is that he could have been one of dozens.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Istvan, he
sold this to the highest,
to the anonymous buyer who quite possibly owned a couple of cycling teams.
Now, what I like about this, and it sort of shows old Vargas's sort of
Vargas,
Vargas, his morals here is he said he thinks the motor is used to cheat in cycling races, but he claims it's not his fault, saying even if he knew for certain it would be used in for cheating. So he says he doesn't 100% know, but even if he knew, Serge.
Well, what else would he make?
He said, this is what he said: if the money is big, why not?
You get a job at the AFL with that attitude.
Or Cricket Australia. Yeah. But how much money are we talking here? $2 million, done.
And he's going. Even if he did know, he doesn't quite know whether it was involved in cheating. Well, why would you invent
a secret motor? Because otherwise
invisible motor.
Because otherwise it's a motorbike.
Exactly.
Like if you can see the motor or hear the motor, it just becomes a motorbike.
It's not a Malvern Star, it's a Harley Davidson.
What I don't get about the sport of cycling is what's the point? Yeah. Like with all this, and I'm not saying this as someone who hates cycling or something, but I'm just saying like all these. I'm talking about the people that have used this or drug cheated, right, or cheated in any way. Yeah. Like so many of them have cheated. You kind of go, what's the point? I know it's for money, but it's just like, what's the point of the sport if everyone is doping or cheating? Like
it must be so hard for the genuine non-cheating ones,
or the fans, people who genuinely think this is a great sport, and because it does take a lot to be able to
tainted, do it. You're right.
But so massively tainted.
Yeah.
This isn't one or two apples who have sort of been caught out, or
it's the whole orchard.
There's not like 34 of them, picking a number at random.
Yes.
This is like, and many cyclists have come out to say this, even ones that are purportedly clean, and said, I'm a clean cyclist, but I think everyone is on the dope.
Is on the gear.
And then we find out, and you wonder how many were both doping and had a motor in their bike. It's just insane.
They'll be going over the mountains pretty soon, just with their feet off the pedals.
Are we overtaking cars?
Just hold on to the handlebars.
Sitting in the basket.
Ringing the bell. Ding, 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 ding. They won't even have to pedal shortly.
It's just amazing to me. Like, it's
now, if our mate Istvan Vargas, what he needs to invent is, a couple of invisible jets that come out of
I know. Well, that's the thing.
whack them into the helmet.
They just need to basically start one when they go, look, as long as you don't get, like, cheating is legal.
Yeah.
But we kind of, we're going to pretend to catch you. So that's part of the fun of it, is you trying to escape detection. It reminds me of those charity car races around Australia, like the Variety Bash and stuff, where you can pay police to pull over a competitor and stuff. But this is a real sport. It's not no one's like going, it's just a bit of a laugh. He's got a secret motor. I'm juiced to the nines. Instead, they're all pretending it's this amazing clean sport. It's unbelievable.
Oh, look, I just got to say that. I mean, he's obviously a bit of a nutcase, old Istvan, but what a genius! I still got it. It's been used for evil, I know.
Yeah.
But the sheer idea.
But the money was good.
The money was good. Just the idea of putting a hidden motor inside the frame of a bike is just. I mean, he should be a James Bond villain.
Yeah, that's right. It's like that.
It's at that level of
shoots a
evil
missile
genius.
too if someone's getting ahead of you.
It's like sharks with friggin' lasers.
Do you think anyone was like one of these and they're like suddenly realised they're about 20 minutes ahead of the pack and go, I might have switch off the motor for half an hour. It's getting a bit noticeable.
And having that button on the handlebars that says cruise control. Cruise control button was a dead giveaway.
It must have had that where you could switch it off, so when you're really in the pack and it's all whirring, that's what covered. The motor must have made a bit of a sound, like a whirring sound. But if you're in a pack of cyclists,
that whole,
so they must be able to switch it on at some point.
Yeah, because if you hear them
ring the bell,
the
twice.
peloton goes past, you just hear the humming of tyres anyway. plus the backfiring of the engine.
That's right, when it backfires and you do a donut leaving.
When you
ring the bell,
when you start hooning and your tyres start smoking at the end of the
that's right. When you do a burnout when you win on the. Now this is easily my favourite story of the year. And possibly the decade already. It's in there. Now, we've loved horse racing for the material it gives us. One sport that's it's copped a bad rap because it keeps doing horrible things to animals is greyhound racing.
Yes.
Now, last week we talked about monkeys racing greyhounds.
Yeah, which was
a big thing in the 30s.
Yeah.
A great idea.
Yeah.
And no harm. Monkeys love it, dogs love it. I don't care what the animal activists say. People love it.
Yeah.
Really, monkeys.
Well, as we point out, the monkeys were so competitive, they were using their tails to whip
the greyhounds.
To whip the greyhounds and to whip the other monkeys.
Well, this is a slightly different take on this, and this actually happened last week. So, or I don't know if it was last week, but it came out last week. So I'm going to read you a bit of this because you almost need to hear the various bits because there are so many.
I'm
nuggets.
not over this story, so
there's so many nuggets of gold in this story that I. So a South Australian greyhound trainer. Already we're off to a bad start. Has been fined after he was caught on television sexually simulating a dog before it raced. Stimulating, sorry.
He wasn't simulating a dog.
Sexually stimulating a dog before it raced. A greyhound. The incident occurred at Angle Park, the well-named Angle Park. I think the angle was wrong. Late last month when trainer Tony Rasmussen handled greyhound Crisis Bale in the vicinity of its genital region before loading it into the starting boxes.
Okay.
Now,
I'm getting a picture here, but you may have to keep going.
In the steward's race report, Crisis Bale was reported to start slowly. A bit distracted.
But did it finish in a hurry?
I don't think it lasted the distance. I just love that. It was noted to start a bit slowly. I think someone fondling you before a race is going to do that.
Hey, he's finished at 800 instead of 1,000.
Greyhound Racing South Australia stewards launched an inquiry into the incident and considered video footage from Sky Racing as part of that evidence. I think that footage is X-rated.
I was about to say, hey, imagine if you're the commentator on Sky Racing.
Just bringing you the colour. Just bringing you the colour and movement.
Go a bit closer on that Crisis Bale, will you?
We just go to Fondle Cam. Now, what I liked about this is Rasmussen, the trainer, he pleaded not guilty to the charge.
Yes, you would.
Yeah, and even if you know you've done it and they've got you dead to rights on video, you still say, oh, no. Now, they deemed his actions to be improper, the stewards, anyway.
Right.
Which I think, and found him guilty. I think it is improper, Serge. I'm going to go on record here. I know this is a contentious issue, but I think fondling a greyhound before it races, even not just before it races, I would argue.
Oh, I was about to say,
just avoid it altogether.
At any time.
Do not fondle a greyhound at any time. Actually, most animals, I would say, are out of bounds.
I was about to say, even if it's not a racing grade, just your pet greyhound probably doesn't need to be fondled.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't think it's something that you should do. Now, what I liked about this is one of the other things is animal welfare groups. Now, you can see how you can imagine the phone call the journos called an animal welfare group going, look, what's your position on fondling a greyhound before it races? Can we call you back?
Yeah.
We're just going to have a meeting about this. The animal welfare group said they were unsure if the intention was to encourage Crisis Bale to run faster or slower, as it was the first time they'd heard of the practice. Now, with animal welfare groups, I reckon they do a lot of good work. They've seen a lot of bad stuff. When they're saying to you, this is actually the first time we've had this.
But they're all saying they're not sure whether it's supposed to make it go faster or slower. You just assume you would hope it'd make it go faster, wouldn't you?
Well, no, apparently it made it go slower.
Right.
Like you said, it was slow out of the gate.
Couldn't run with.
Well, this is what's interesting. It said, well, this depends. I think it's, it'd be a bit hard to run with your tackle kind of
when you're, a bit,
saluting all the way down the straight.
When you're stimulated, probably,
You'll be a bit distracted. You're either going to be like, there's the adrenaline flowing, or you're going to be a bit distracted, right? So it could have a problem. Now, a greyhound trainer who wished to remain anonymous. Now,
really?
I think Mr. Rasmussen was wishing he could remain anonymous right now. He said, I assume it's a he, sorry, it doesn't say, but I just instantly think it's probably he. I think I'll probably be right there.
To be a bloke.
Said the stimulation of the dog would make it run slower.
How would he know?
Well, this is what I'm wondering want to be anonymous. He said, I think it's appalling, he said. He was a bit stupid doing it in front of the camera.
Oh.
That was the bit that was stupid, Now, they seem to suggest that this might be something you do to make a favourite not run fast and therefore enable some betting to go your way.
So it gets pipped at the post.
Has this got a future in... we've got the Nitro Athletics coming up in Melbourne with human athletes.
I'll tell you what, if Usain Bolt starts badly on Saturday night, I'm going to be having a very close look at John Stephenson.
People are amazing, aren't they? You would think to do that.
Would it work in the thoroughbred?
I don't know. Racetrack Ralphie will know this because there's nothing about horse racing he doesn't know.
Ralphie, we're going to get in touch with you on this. I'll tell you what,
it'd be better even if he knew to pretend he didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's it's just a weird world, greyhound racing.
Oh, it is indeed. I mean,
but it's not doing the best in the PR stakes, I have to say.
As you just said, the sheer thought of a trainer think, if I give the dog a little bit of a touch up, he'll run a bit slower for the first 100. Why would you even think of doing that?
Well, do you think there was some testing beforehand to work out whether it made you run?
Like the other trainers seem to know all about it.
My hypothesis is it will run slow, But let's try it a few times and see. Oh, unbelievable.
Well,
now,
what does the dog in the next box think?
No one of the other dogs are running fast.
Yeah, or the other dogs go, oh, what about me?
I think actually
It's good enough for him.
I think actually the other he wasn't running slow. The other dogs were running fast. Now getting to our listeners' questions. Damien Rufus Nolan wrote in. Mick Moldhouse has come out and said that the Travis Cloak move to the Western Bulldogs is a great thing for both parties. Does this mean that it is quite possibly the worst idea ever?
Damien still doesn't like Mick. I mean, he's had it in for Mick Nolan for quite some time.
You know, a lot of Collingwood supporters.
Mick Moldhouse.
Yeah, a lot of Collingwood supporters I talk to. You know, when they're like cleaning the house or something. But a lot of Collingwood supporters I've talked to over the years, a lot of them just don't like Mick. And it's not just the way it ended. They just never really liked him, even though he brought them way more success.
You're right.
I'm sure there's ones out there that do.
You're right.
But he brought them
for a premiership coach, he's certainly
made them
not
relevant again.
He's certainly not loved or even properly respected for what he did achieve.
Yeah.
Christ, if Simon Goodwin wins a premiership for Melbourne, he can fondle as many greyhounds as he likes for the next 10 years. I'll still love him.
I think that's in his contract. Adam Midgley wrote in, is David Warner's achievement of winning back-to-back Allan Border medals rendered meaningless by the fact Shane Watson did the same thing? I saw Shane Watson won BBL International, T20 Player of the Year.
The thing I like about Shane Watson, whenever he's interviewed or whenever he's at one of these things, he always just has his blank look where he's not quite, looks like he doesn't quite know where he is.
See, I have a theory that Shane Watson is probably actually a nice person.
Oh, he's probably a terrific player.
And then you got Michael Clark, who everyone...
That's a shocker.
Unanimously, but Watson cops the heat. And a lot of it's from us. I'm not trying to, speaking of Ralphie Horowitz, Racetrack Ralphie, after last week's podcast, would you or Serge mind if I called a trotter the Anthony Rocker solution? That was on your...
I can't remember what I said.
You said something about Anthony Rocker being the solution. I don't want to know what the problem is if that's the case.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
just let me say
Ray.
that there is some correlation between that and the Greyhound story.
Gareth Olver wrote in, is Trump already at the point where he has less supporters than GWS?
Ooh, that's a good question. He's gone political, Gareth.
Well, we probably get, in all honesty, I reckon I get maybe, say, 10 or so Trump questions every week. Which, we also have ones on string theory and various things.
Oh, it's true. It was like last
mixture.
night when I was watching The Jungle Show.
Yeah.
At the start, when the first 5 celebrities came out, a plane came down to take them somewhere, and I thought, geez, I hope they don't take Nazim to America. This could be a bit awkward,
It is amazing what's going on over there. I hope you being from Sudan, you're in real trouble. Now, that's a good point, Gareth. Now, both Trump and GWS, it's a bit like this with the AFL, both wanting to say who's got the biggest crowds.
Yes.
And showing us pictures of empty stadiums and going, there's 1.5 million people here. Now, Clinton wrote in. Now, this could be Bill Clinton.
There we go. Could be.
or Hillary. Maybe in
Hillary,
Chelsea.
Did she email it?
Yeah, what email address did she use? Now, if we look at this, Clinton has written in, with recent changes to US visas, how will the pre-season trips be taken and any effects on the season proper?
Jeez, he's looking ahead here, Clinton.
Well, to be honest, the way it's going to make Australians get engaged is how does it affect the AFL or sporting bodies? Is there anyone that won't get into the AFL? If once sporting stars, I saw someone from the one of the nominations for best foreign language picture at the Oscars apparently can't get in.
Oh, he's Iranian, isn't he?
Yeah, so he can't get in now to go to the thing. Now, that's one thing, but that's, really foreign language film. Who cares?
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
But if a sports star suddenly can't get into the US, that's going to be when the people really start to get excited.
Yeah, what if Trump comes out and bans all Australian sporting teams from Hawaii or Vegas?
Well, actually, the worst one is like when they go to the... when you go to one of the various drug rehabilitation centres over there in Phoenix. That's where they all seem to go.
Or Malibu.
Josh Mansfield wrote in, how long till we start seeing a club's leadership group consist of, well, the entire team?
Oh, that's a good question. It's getting there already to a degree, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what does a leadership group consist of? Usually half a dozen players?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
getting there.
That's half.
Soon they'll start naming who's
players.
not. That'll be quicker. Are we both in our leadership team? I don't think we've even got one.
No,
we're a communist collective.
Working on a 5-year agricultural plan.
That's right. I'm a bit hungry, actually. When's the food coming?
Yeah, well, the servants will bring it.
Yeah, that's right. Last question. Willie Royal wrote in, are you and Serge the poor man's Hamish and Andy? I think if you consider the poor man's Hamish and Andy not popular, not good looking, not rich,
and considerably older,
then yes,
we probably are.
The very poor man.
Yeah, just on that. Last night we go back. Let's just go back to the Jungle Show for a moment.
All right.
They
finish how we started.
Yeah, there were 10 celebs, if you use the term loosely.
Yes.
Revealed last night, and at the very end they said, "There's 2 more going to be revealed tomorrow." And my son goes, "Is it you and Titus?"
I think even that's the sad thing. The sad thing is, our celebrity is so non-existent, we don't even qualify for that. That's when you know you're not even a celebrity.
When you're not even close to Ash Pollard,
That's right. That's how bad it's got for us. Now,
who do you like for the best question?
I was going to go with Gareth Olvers. Is Trump already at the point where he's less supporters than GWS?
Yeah, no, I like that one. I'll pay that.
And a few people complained to me that we asked for questions on the night the tennis was on. They go, we're busy. And we do apologise for that. But, we rarely run up against the tennis. And it was a good one. Who knew? Who knew tennis could be so engaging?
Yes, well, at least we still got some questions, though. It was good to see the people who they drag themselves away from the tennis to ask us some stupid questions.
Anyway, well, we'll be back on Thursday. We didn't do it last week because of Australia Day, obviously. There's another reason to move the date when it starts clashing with our podcast. So we'll be back Thursday, and we should be getting ready for the Women's AFL kicking off.
Yeah, I was about to say, what happens next weekend that
we're starting to turn our mind seriously to the season proper.
Footy.
As I like to call it.
Not far away.
Even better than it ends this awkward period of after the tennis and then it becomes the season proper.
That season proper.
Well, we'll see you then.
See ya.